If you don't have access to a fully featured editing suite like Lightroom, or if you simply want to do quicker edits on the go on your mobile device, I would highly recommend using the Snapseed application for iOS. It offers you a ton of features for editing food photos in a really simple and elegant interface, and it's absolutely free. In this lesson, we're going to look at how to use Snapseed to achieve similar results to Lightroom on your mobile device for free. We'll also talk quickly about mobile workflow management. Lightroom makes it so easy to categorize your photos in your library and to keep everything really organized. But on a mobile device, there's a few extra challenges and considerations. So we'll talk quickly about how to manage your pictures over time if you're only using a mobile device. We saw in the last video how powerful and useful Lightroom is for food photographers. If you don't have access to that, and you're primarily going to be editing on your mobile device, Snapseed is the way to go. It's a free application for iOS, and it certainly doesn't achieve Lightroom quality results, but it does give you a lot of functionality in a really quick and efficient way for free on your phone. Now let's look at a few advantages and disadvantages of editing your pictures with Snapseed. The advantages are that it provides you with most of the core editing effects you'll need. Almost all of the things we discussed, those 6 effects, you can achieve those pretty efficiently on Snapseed. It's also very fast and efficient. There's just a few sliders, you drag everything left and right to adjust the effects, you can go back and forth. It works really well, and it's a well-designed workflow on your phone. It's also free. You can't really beat that. I mean, when Lightroom's $150 and this is free, that brings up the question of whether Lightroom really is worth it for you or not. The disadvantages are that there's no library management. You simply open your pictures and then you close them or export them. It doesn't give you those library features like Lightroom. You can't make collections, you can't store your photos inside of the application. It's purely to develop and edit your pictures. And the feature set that it has, while useful, is fairly limited, and you cannot fine-tune all of your controls nowhere near the same way you can with Lightroom. And as you might imagine, it's really not capable of achieving the same type of results that you could get from Lightroom or Photoshop on a full-size computer. Finally, it's only available for iOS, so if you have an Android or another type of phone, you're out of luck. You'll have to find a similar application, and I don't have one of those devices, so I can't give any good recommendations. I'm sure there's something similar, but this application is specifically only available on iOS. At this point, I'd like to take you through a quick rundown of some of the key effects that you can do with Snapseed. So we'll use the same picture for comparison, the cornbread stuffing picture that we edited previously. We'll upload that same raw picture into Snapseed, and we'll do the same type of editing effects and see what we can get. So when you open a picture into Snapseed, you get this screenshot here. Your picture shows up in the middle, there's the plus button to open, there's the little square with the arrow to export your picture when you're done, and then along the bottom are a list of all your editing effects. There's like an automatic button, and you can slide that left and right to access more effects. We will be dealing with about 4 or 5 key tabs along the bottom. The first is the Tune Image tab. This is where you get all your core effects, like the brightness, ambiance, contrast, saturation, shadows, and the warmth or color balance. And to use these, you put your finger on the picture and you slide up or down to get an access to the menu. And when you hover over one of these items, like brightness for example, then you just slide your finger left and right to actually brighten or darken the image. So it's really efficient and it works really well. And this area is where you're going to get all of those core features. So once you get your brightness and your contrast and your color balance right in this section, then you can move on to straightening your image. And this works similarly. You just slide your finger left and right and it adjusts how straight or crooked your image is. And you can see there's a fine grid over the image which helps you kind of use levels to balance it out and get your horizons right. Crop is actually in a different section, and just like before, it allows you to crop your images to any size. You can do it freeform, or they have preset sizes, so it'll automatically crop to a square or to a portrait mode or whatever else. And again, as you can see, it provides the rule of thirds. You can see the 3 dividing lines horizontally and vertically to help you align your image. There's an entire tab along the bottom of Snapseed for sharpening. It's called Details, and you can drag the slider again left and right to adjust the sharpening or the structure of your image, which are similar detail effects. It also has this loop or magnifying glass, which is helpful. It shows you a zoomed in picture of that section of your image, and you can see the more close-up details. So those are the main editing features within Snapseed. It probably takes a third or a quarter of the time to edit an image in Snapseed that it does in Lightroom, but again, you're not getting quite the same quality results. Now there's a lot of other tabs. There's tabs for borders and other filters on your pictures, and we've already talked about how much I hate filters. But one that I actually would use if I was editing on Snapseed is the center focus feature. This creates a blurred outside circle while everything inside the circle is in focus. So you can tap on the screen to create a circle and then pinch it in or out to make the circle bigger or smaller. Everything inside the circle will be in focus and everything outside of it will be out of focus. And you can adjust how much blur there is. But this gives you the illusion of having a shallower depth of field. For example, if you took a picture of a plate of food and the plate was round and you had a background behind it and some other elements in the picture, you could use this effect to create a circle that matches the plate and then drag the slider to make the outside more blurred. It won't be perfect, and it's certainly not going to give you the same kind of quality that a high quality lens is going to give you on a DSLR, but it can give you the illusion that you're controlling the depth of field by making the rest of the picture blurry and by highlighting just the one circle that you want to highlight. So if I was going to use Snapseed, I would use this in a limited basis. I wouldn't go overboard with it, but it's definitely an area to play with and to check out, especially for food photographs, where you really want to highlight the food and blur the things around it. That was just a quick rundown of how to use Snapseed for food photographs. If you'd like to really get into the application, they have a great help section. They give you overlays over the screen that quickly show you how to use each feature, and it literally takes like 10 minutes to play around with it and learn all the settings. So now I'm sure you're wondering how the effect quality compares with that of Lightroom. So these are the three pictures we've been working with. The one in the middle is the raw unprocessed image file. On either side are images edited by Snapseed and Lightroom. So which one do you think was edited by Snapseed and which one do you think was edited by Lightroom? For me, it's almost immediately obvious. I can tell that clearly the one on the right was edited with Snapseed and clearly the one on the left was edited with Lightroom. On the right, you just don't have the same level of contrast. The brightness isn't there. I could have bumped up the brightness, but then that washes out the actual stuffing, and you just don't have the same level of control. There's so much more depth of color on the left while still being brighter. You get better shadow controls. It just looks a lot better. But then, again, you have to compare the fact that one is $150 and the other one is free. And it's also important to note that this picture was taken on a DSLR. It's the same picture all three times. So I imported the higher quality picture into Snapseed, and I can only imagine the results would have gotten worse had I actually taken the picture on my iPhone and then uploaded and edited into Snapseed. So that's actually making Snapseed look even better than it otherwise would. But again, both pictures look serviceable. It's not too terrible on the right, and is a big improvement over the one in the middle. So if that's all you have access to, it's a perfectly valid way to edit your pictures. If you're going to be using your iPhone to take and edit pictures, managing your library and your overall workflow might be a little more difficult than if you were using a traditional camera and importing them into Lightroom. So if you're going to shoot pictures with your phone, you have basically three options, and they start out better and get a little bit less desirable as we go. The first is to import and edit them in Lightroom. Just as you can with any other camera, you can import your iPhone's pictures into Lightroom, and this is what I would recommend. Even if you're using an iPhone, or maybe even especially if you're using an iPhone, they're going to need more editing, and Lightroom gives you more control. It also helps you manage your library in a more organized way. So even if I was using an iPhone, I would probably want to use Lightroom as well. If that's not possible, if I don't have Lightroom, Then I would edit my pictures in Snapseed on my phone and import them into iPhoto or another folder on my computer to keep them organized outside of my phone, which is always a good idea in case your phone gets too full, or if you lose your phone, you'll have a backup of your pictures organized on your computer in a way that's easier to kind of keep track of everything you're doing. But if I didn't have access to a computer and I wanted to keep everything contained on my phone, that would probably be the least desirable option, but I would simply make photo albums on my phone for each photo shoot and for each thing I was doing. The disadvantage of this is that your phone's going to fill up with photos very quickly, but it all really comes down to what your goals are. If you're just sharing pictures for social media, you can probably get by with just using your iPhone and using Snapseed to edit them and then share them. If you want to do something more serious, like start a food blog or take really high quality pictures for another reason, then you're almost certainly going to need Lightroom and another way of managing your pictures. So it just comes down to your goals and your interests, and these are a few suggestions that I would use depending on what you're looking to do and what type of equipment you have access to. The homework for this lesson is to download Snapseed if you have an iOS device. Again, it's not available for Android or other platforms. If you're using one of those, you'll have to do a little research and find a similar application for those devices. And when you do, get familiar with the platform and edit a few pictures using the effects that we mentioned. Snapseed is very simple, so just take a few minutes to get comfortable with how it works, and if you like, you can use those same pictures that I provided in the previous lesson, the raw unedited images. You can upload those to your phone, import them in Snapseed, and try editing them to see if you can get similar quality results through Snapseed on your mobile device.